Judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano, live outside the Supreme Court. You know, there may have been plenty of people who thought this law was going to live in one way or another, but I didn't hear too many predicting it would come down this way.
No, Shep, and I confess that I was wrong, as were many of the people with whom you and I associate and discuss these things. This was a bizarre and unique combination of a conservative Chief Justice and the four liberals finding a way to have the law held as constitutional that even the law and even those who wrote it didn't say. Who would have thought that this whole big 2,700-page statute was really a tax, not a regulation of commerce, not a regulation of medicine, not a regulation of health care, but a tax on people? Because Congress's power to regulate is limited, but Congress's power to tax is virtually unlimited. And the Chief Justice and the majority of this court articulated and underscored that today.
You know, looking back to Bush v. Gore, many have considered this, especially those on the left, have considered this a right-leaning court. What does this do for this court, historically speaking and otherwise?
Well, it shows that the court will not always rule in accordance with what our preconceived notion of who the allies are and who the conservatives are and who the liberals. It shows that we're not always right when we say it's four liberals versus four conservatives and Justice Kennedy is in the middle. And it shows that once in a while, Shep, and I've said this earlier today, the court thinks like the Vatican does. It doesn't think in terms of the present problem. It thinks of how generations later, even centuries later, lawyers and judges, obviously as yet unborn, will look back on this day and ascertain their intellectual honesty. That's probably what John Roberts would say if he were standing here and you got to question him.
The dissent in this was quite something, Judge. From it and otherwise, we learned that without this from Justice Roberts, not just a little bit here and a little bit there, but the entirety of this law was gone.
Sure. I mean, the dissenters unanimously, that is, there was no disagreement among them. Justices Scalia, Kennedy, Thomas, and Alito said the entire statute is unconstitutional. Shep, they didn't even reach this issue of whether this is a tax. They just reached the issue that this is private human behavior that the Constitution doesn't authorize the Congress to regulate, and under their view of the Constitution, end of the story.
And I thought it interesting, but before we go here, Judge, that the Chief Justice said, it is not mine to block. It is mine to make this work if I can.
You know, you played a great tape of him a few moments ago saying that he's going to be an umpire. He's not going to throw the pitches and he's not going to try and hit the ball. His job, he said today, is to find a way to make these statutes constitutional, even if it's a narrow way, and he did.
Judge Andrew Napolitano outside the Supreme Court. Judge, as always.